I would like to call to order the October 7th, 2024 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Welcome, everyone. We are happy to have a special guest with us tonight, Mount Pleasant Mayor Tony Lapish. Welcome, Mayor Lapish. Glad to have you here with us. First up is the approval of the work session agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of a closed session to discuss personnel? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And we move now to discussion items for action. First up, from Cooperative Extension, Cannon Foundation Grant Budget Amendment. We're happy to have Tracy and Beverly here for that item.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. We are just here to talk about a budget amendment to add some money to allow for the grant that we just got from the Cannon Foundation. If you look in your packet, you'll see that it is the $40,000 for the alignment. And basically the background on this is that we go into the budget season with zero because we're not sure that we're going to get the budget. And then we do reallocation from anything that was left over from FY24 to go into FY25. And then when we get the grant, then we come to you to ask for a budget amendment to increase both the income and the expense line items that are associated with the grant, so we can do that. So we were excited to get the grant again this year, and Beverly's here to share a little bit about that. And we have some exciting news about it, that it's a little bit bigger this year.
Cool.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. And it is $40,000 this year, which is a $5,000 increase from last year. So we're very grateful for the additional funding, which will be used for many different things. And just a couple things that we're utilizing the money for is we have 20 different after-school Kids Plus sites and over 1,500 after-school 4-H'ers. So we just installed them as officers. So we had over 200 at our 4-H Club Officers Retreat with our parents and our after-school 4-H'ers as well. So some of the things that we're doing with the money is kids in the kitchen classes. We've had so many that would like to take classes on cooking and how to cook simple meals and nutritious snacks and desserts, and so we're offering those on Saturdays and on teacher work days for the after-school 4-H'ers. So that has gone really, really well. We also, starting in the pandemic, we started doing kits because we could not get into the after-school sites, and it has grown so much since then that teachers, Kids Plus teachers, are still wanting the educational kits. So hands-on kits, anywhere from creative arts to science experiments, and all of the supplies are in a kit for them and enough to do with each child in that center. So they have 350 selections to choose from in that. And then we also have the National 4-H STEM Science Challenge. And every year, National 4-H has a different science challenge. And it comes as a kit already. And this year it's on food for thought. So it is on trying to find fresh fruits and vegetables in locations that may not have them, and how to look for them, and educating children on food and nutritious food. And we will also be collaborating with the Arts Council again this year. We had over 600 art entries last year, and I'm sure we'll have at least that many this year. So we do a lot to try to involve the children as well as families into 4-H. So we are so grateful for you for the support of 4-H after school, and we're so grateful for Kids Plus to be so supportive as well. So thank you so much.
We, just so y'all can have the big picture, Cooperative Extension works in food, nutrition, agriculture, and then 4-H is our youth development program. And then within our 4-H program, we serve 4 delivery modes. So one is in-school enrichment, camps and classes. Third one is clubs through 4-H clubs, and the fourth one is after school. And so Beverly is the program associate that works directly with those after-school sites. And then the grant with the funding helps to support another position that helps, especially with the 350 kits that are coming and going regularly to the after-school sites, and the teachers are coming, picking them up and going out the door. As you can imagine, that's a little bit of a logistic challenge to deal with that. But also with the STEM challenge that we do, which I think is very key on point this year with the Blue Zones initiative, that it is a food scarcity project. But we serve, 5,000 students across Cabarrus County, and that includes KCS, CCS, and outside into the non-traditional classrooms as well. So we do a lot of good with this grant, and we're very excited to have it. Do you guys have any questions? Thanks for entertaining us.
Thank you.
Well, no questions, but thank you for what you're doing. And I think it's really good for you to talk about those programs, and hopefully there's some folks watching this, because I think the average person in Cabarrus County has no idea about how many kids you impact through the 4-H program. I think a lot of folks are thinking back 50 years ago, what 4-H might have been now and then, and really don't realize how important it is now. And certainly what you mentioned about the nutrition, the food scarcity and that sort of thing falls perfectly in line with what the Cabarrus Health Alliance has been working on for a number of years about the food deserts and talking about fresh fruits and vegetables, and the tie-in with the Blue Zone presentation that we had really is impressive. And all that being said, we are so fortunate to have the Cannon Foundation in our community that support so many programs, and this being one of the big ones. So they wouldn't do that if you guys weren't doing a great job at it. So thank you.
Thank
all
you. Thank you.
Okay, we move now to item 4.2, property switch with Rocky Ridge United Methodist Church. This is an item that we discussed, I think, at our last work session, and I'll turn the floor over to Kelly Sifford to update us.
Thank you. We do have a quick update. As you well know, that swapping property is not something we do a lot, so we did discover there is a advertising requirement that we need to do. So we will be doing that in between the meetings here, and we'll be able to take the official action at the regular meeting. Just wanted to let you know while we were kind of going through a little extra time on it. Are there any questions?
Coincidentally, after we had this discussion, I had a call from a grandparent expressing their concern about the congestion trying to get in Franklin Park on Saturday mornings when they have so many activities going on. And so I was happy to be able to tell her about this property switch and how we were trying to make provisions to get a second access into that park. So she was pleased to hear that.
Thank you. It will be more important when Red Bull comes online. They will
Right.
be using that train line more.
That rail spur will be used more.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Kelly? Thank you. Okay, we move now to item 4.3 from Human Resources, time off benefits. And I think we've got several HR people here to talk with us about that. Lundy and Ashley.
Good afternoon. This is earlier than we usually make it on the agenda. We're moving quickly tonight. So we'll try to keep our portion moving as well. We are basically coming back to you to report out on a few more of the time off benefits that we started discussing at the retreat. So we have some information that's very hot off the press. Hopefully Lauren was able to get that in front of you as far as the PowerPoint. And then we have a few ordinance updates that are related. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to lead you through the presentation. And of course, we are available for any questions you have as we go through this.
Okay, so good evening. Thank you for allowing us this time to share about some additional total rewards research that we have worked on in the past few months. Tonight, we're going to share with you the benefits and rewards we asked other agencies about and how Cabarrus compares with what others are doing. So just a quick overview, again, in January, we conducted a survey that included 17 jurisdictions, and we presented some of this data at the Commissioner's Retreat in February. And during that meeting, we proposed the items that we felt were important for us to work on, research, that kind of thing, in order to be competitive in our market. We've researched other jurisdictions along with HR professional organizations' policies for guidance on establishing our recommendations. We reached out to the top 10 North Carolina counties along with a few other direct competitors, and we've heard from 18 similar or competing organizations and researched the state of North Carolina as well. So the respondents are on the slide in front of you, and we also provided a handout that shows, that lists those respondents, and it lists next to them if they have the benefits that we're going to chat about tonight. So we just wanted to touch on this slide briefly again. We shared this last time. But absenteeism is the habitual non-presence of an employee at their job for an unacceptable or unexcused time span. And then presenteeism is a little different when an employee comes to work with an illness, injury, or other condition negatively affecting their productivity and work quality. And these become problematic and costly when employees don't have time they need to take care of their needs. So just an overview of what we're going to share as far as information tonight. We'll be sharing some information about floating holidays, personal days, and sick leave. And with sick leave, we're going to talk about credit from previous employment. And if we did have approval for these projects, the timeline for changes would vary, but we would estimate that changes would be made sometime after December 1st. The first item we wanted to share tonight is a floating holiday. So 13 out of the 19 respondents have incorporated a floating holiday or either Juneteenth into their holiday schedule. And the state began providing a floating holiday in 2022 by executive order, and we have always followed the state's holiday schedule, but we have not implemented the floating holiday into our holiday schedule. We're proposing the addition of a floating holiday for our employees so that they can choose a day that is of personal significance to them. Some examples could be Juneteenth, Hanukkah, Indigenous Peoples Day, or many others that may be meaningful to our growing and diverse population here at the county. The next item that we researched was personal leave or wellness leave. Different jurisdictions call it different things, and you can see that on the handout we provided. But personal leave is time that can be used for reasons other than illness or vacation. So some examples might include a mental health day. So somebody might be dealing with a bad customer experience or a very stressful event or news that they just feel like they need to leave for the rest of the day and get kind of their mind straightened out. And then wellness, EAP appointments, counseling, a wellness class that they might want to participate in, or family concerns or tragedy. So aging parents, they might need to take time off to go take a parent to an appointment, or weather events like we've recently experienced. We've had employees the past 2 weeks or so wanting to go help with the hurricane event, or have family members that they need to go help in the mountains. So 8 out of 19 respondents have additional wellness or personal benefit time. We've talked about tabling this request at this time, but wanted to share the data with you because it was something that we presented at the retreat. And we did the research, so. Do you have anything to add?
I think this is one that, looking at the number of respondents that are participating in this, we felt like it was on the weaker side as far as the examples. And a number of these items could be moved under a different category of time off. So again, we are very appreciative of all the time that you have allotted and wanted to be respectful of that. So we're feeling like this is one that we probably can explain away, or, you know, help employees understand what other buckets of time they can utilize. But there were some pretty compelling examples, and as Ashley said, recently we've had employees who are dealing with health diagnoses, or definitely people with a disaster in Western North Carolina who are having to go help out families. So things that we can see fitting into this category, but again, unless you feel like there's a need to push forward, this is one that we felt we could pull back on for now.
One question that I had, I noticed that, well, I guess Durham County is the most, offers the most. They offer 5 days, but I noticed that second to them was Mecklenburg County, which offers 2 wellness days. And I was curious how that impacts us, because I would assume that they would be one of our major competitors for employees.
That's true. And when we were looking at maybe proposing this, we were thinking 2 days would be what we would have put out to you. Each jurisdiction offers a different package, and I think sometimes we have to be kind of creative as we're making those offers. We're literally dealing with an offer right now that is of interest in some of the benefits we're discussing. So we're seeing applicants who aren't just evaluating the salary offer that we're putting out, they are matching up benefits. And if they're considering leaving a jurisdiction that has it, it can be a negative if you don't offer that. So we're hoping our total benefits package is competitive, but that's true when it's somebody of the size of Mecklenburg right next to us that we do compete with. It's a bit of concern.
Yeah, and so on the floating holidays, is that something that employees can just arbitrarily pick a day, or does it have to fall within a category, or?
I think it's intended for use on a holiday or a day that's special to them. So that might be,
So I could say I want to be off because it's my grandma's birthday. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to understand what the parameters were.
Or your birthday.
Yeah.
Some people do have birthday holidays
Yeah.
as an option. We did that once upon a time, a number
Right.
of years ago, and people did like that, so.
But I got a question
Choice.
for you, but what if, on the floating holiday, just say Juneteenth, what if you have quite a number of people that want that day off? How do you determine who gets the day off without shutting down business as usual?
Well, the intent with the floater was that we wouldn't have to shut down. We feel like by having choice, departments are going to be able to manage that. And if there's a certain number they feel like they can't go below to staff operations, then they would allow, through their normal selection process, it might be first to request, it might be seniority based, but we'll allow the departments to work through that. And we feel like by offering the floater, we'll be better able to sustain operations, because people do have different preferences. Unlike recommending, as some of the jurisdictions have done, closing down an additional day. So we were trying to be mindful of that, to allow that flexibility, not just for the employee, but to also keep the county operations moving.
So we would call that floater holiday, that's what you're asking.
Just a floater. Yep.
okay. So the cost of a floating holiday is included in the employee's salary. The salary is budgeted in terms of their annual cost, so it doesn't increase that cost. And then floating holiday does not carry forward year to year or pay out. So if somebody leaves, we're not paying that time out if they haven't used the day. So the other item we wanted to share tonight is in regards to sick leave. So for recruitment of experienced staff, we propose allowing all sick leave accruals from North Carolina local and state government agencies to be added to the employee's bank. Right now, we take 20 days if they come to us from another jurisdiction to put in their bank for their use. But we're seeing a pretty big movement. Most jurisdictions are just going to allowing unlimited sick time. So if somebody comes to us from MEC or Rowan and they have 30 days of sick time, we want to allow them to put all of that in their bank to use here. So 2 others are accepting only 96 hours of sick time, but then the 12 out of the 19 are accepting unlimited time. This will provide more administrative ease for our benefits team. So right now, what they're kind of having to do is they take the 20 days, but then they have to record anything that's above the 20 days and keep track of that for the duration of the employee's time with us. So if they came with a 30-day example, they're putting 20 days in the bank, but then they have to document that they had 10 additional days for the retirement system and kind of hang on to that information. If we just put it all in the bank, it's just there and they don't have to remember that that person had those extra days or document that information. So it would help them. And then accepting more sick leave will have a positive impact on our employees that experience general medical concerns or medical crisis, especially when they first join us.
So I imagine that would have an impact. I mean, what I have observed is there is a lot of switching from one government employment to another, and that's a prime area for us to recruit people. So I would think this would be a deterrent, a big deterrent for a lot of folks. If they're working in Mecklenburg County and they got 60 sick days banked, they probably would not consider switching positions if they knew they were going to lose that. Is that what you find in the real world?
Yes, they want to have that time to use, especially if they have, 15, 20 years of experience and they have, they just want that security. Did you
Yeah.
add anything to that?
We definitely see examples where we have been lucky enough to bring a number of people over, thanks to having some better salaries now. But that is something that they are asking about. It's been helpful in a couple of examples I can think about where somebody transferred in pretty new and had a medical situation. And, they're further in their career, they've built up the time, but if they can't carry it over, then they're going without pay perhaps, or, it can be a disincentive, to your point, to jump from employer to employer. And as Ashley said, this is one that we're seeing the trend kind of shifting, where more people are saying just administratively it's easier to allow them to bring the bank. She's going to talk about cost next, so we don't feel like it's going to be a huge cost driver, but I'll let her share that info.
Yeah, so employee salaries, again, are budgeted. It's not going to increase that direct salary cost. Local government and state sick accruals can be used as needed, and unused sick time is what will be applied towards retirement when the employee qualifies for retirement. So this isn't anything that we ever will actually pay out.
A lot of times employees really try hard not to use their sick time because they do want to utilize that to add to their retirement, getting them to the retirement a little bit quicker or enhancing that benefit. So we see that employees try to really guard their sick time, but there are times where you're not able to work, and we want to try to be as flexible as we can. We see this as another way of kind of eating into that leave without pay, especially with new transfers in, not having time. So again, we feel like there won't be a payout cost to it. It's more of an opportunity cost if somebody's out of work, and we'll have to monitor that through overtime, as well as in some of our departments, if the person isn't there, the work waits for them to return, or others have to pick up that work. So that's kind of how we view that one shaken out.
Somewhat unrelated, but don't you have a program where you allow, let's say, a new employee has a medical issue, that you allow employees to donate some of their days to employees that need it? Is that,
We do have that donation bank, but unfortunately, you have to be here for a year before you can participate and be a recipient. So some of the people that probably could help the most don't even qualify to ask for that time. So what we see happening more often with them is they go into a leave without pay status.
right? But after they've been here a year, then they still wouldn't have that many sick days
True.
banked if they have a serious situation.
That's true. Yep. The more we can do to help people keep those paychecks whole, the better. And they are, like I said, comparing us to other employers and what they offer. So what we're proposing today are basically items that we're not trying to lead the pack. We're trying to play catch up to make sure our benefits are at least consistent with what the majority of other jurisdictions are offering right now.
Okay. So we presented 3 potential benefit items today for consideration. The addition of a floating holiday for 2025, review of personal days, and acceptance of unlimited sick accruals from other North Carolina local and state retirement system participants for use at Cabarrus County or at retirement.
So you're not recommending the personal days at this time, but you are recommending the other two?
We would love to offer it, but I don't know that there's that appetite to add more time into that type of bank.
I was gonna ask, no, the personal leave, that doesn't, there's no cost to us for that, correct? It's absorbed with the,
Like the other benefits, it is just more time that employees could utilize.
so why would we not give that? if there's-
Lost productivity,
Oh, yeah, but
but,
the city of Charlotte has 1 day, the city of Concord has 1 day, Mooresville has 1 day, even Rowan County has 4 hours of each. And those are the ones that are immediately surrounding us. I personally don't mind having a day. I mean, if it's not gonna, I appreciate, I understand where you're coming from and with everything, but if it's not going to cost us other than loss of productivity, I don't understand why we don't offer 1 day.
I would tend to agree. I mean, I would be supportive of that, particularly when you're looking at our 3 major competitors, which I would consider that to be the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and the city of Concord. All 3 offer that. I feel like we may be making a mistake if we held back on that.
I'm in favor of all 3 of them, and now my question, if we do a 1 day for the wellness or personal day, that would be something that we would not pay out at the
Right,
end of the year.
that's correct.
It's either use it or lose it.
Use it or
correct?
lose it, no payout, right.
Okay. I would be fine with that.
Any other comments? Okay, well then, if everybody is in favor of that, then that would be the proposal that would go on our consent agenda for the regular meeting, unless you want to discuss it further.
Well, you know, when you talk about being competitive, particularly with the surrounding counties, jurisdictions and all, there's a lot of things that we cannot be competitive with. But this is one that we can, and we should do it.
I'm fine with that. The only thing I ask is in the future that these items be included in our agenda before we get to this room, because I would like to be able to read through it instead of getting 17 pages to try to read while you're presenting, so that's all I would ask for.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
We're
We're
on the-
very appreciative. We are, and our employees will be as well. So we will, I do have some ordinance language I need to shift to that ties to some of this. I did not include anything with personal days, so we'll bring that back at the next opportunity for you to see the language on that one. we'll have to shape that a little bit because the bank would have to be created and work through a few logistics. So Lauren, if you can you shift to the Word document with the ordinance changes? A few of these items are just general updates, and our apologies, we were running pretty behind with a few other projects trying to get this to you, so we hear your feedback and we'll work on getting that to you sooner. And if you need more time, we can always push this back to your next meeting to give you full consideration. So a couple of items, when we've been working through the vacation project that you approved 2 cycles ago, we noticed that there were some issues with rounding on the vacation tables, so we just need to clean that up. It's very slight error reporting, but we wanted you to see what that would look like. And then the other piece of that is when we're looking at those with previous service, as we've been working through the process to collect that and implement it, it seems like most of the other jurisdictions are using as their gold standard North Carolina local government retirement system credit. So we would like to include that as kind of that parameter by which we allow people to participate. So the previous language that you approved was kind of in that section with the highlights, but employees, applicants with prior service with North Carolina local and state governments may receive the vacation credit. But we would like to add to that, or those with North Carolina local and state government retirement system creditable service. So that's a slight adjustment to the verbiage, but it is intended just to make the administration process simpler and be consistent with what some other jurisdictions are doing. An example of what that might include, if somebody works for a mental health, licensed mental health group that is not, in our definition, a state or county government or city, they are allowed to participate in the retirement system, so they would roll into this benefit as well. And if they have time, we would bridge that over. So does that make sense, hopefully? So that was the changes we'd like to request on the vacation section. And then scrolling down, the next section is holidays. So we have some just general cleanup language, basically stating that the holidays do not roll over. It's not paid out upon departure, just making sure that's crystal clear with any of the holidays. And then the additional language in blue would be to add that floating holiday as a new holiday for 2025. Also, in just the general edits, if you'll scroll down just a tad bit, I think further, the employee has to work their normally scheduled workday before or after the holiday, or utilize paid time off to be eligible. So just cleaning up a few of those logistical items that we found would be better served in this particular policy. Moving on, the next section is our sick leave policy, the credit from previous employment. And with that, we're just striking through some of the language that limited it to the 20 days and adding that unlimited, and also tying that to the North Carolina local government retirement system eligibility. So it just matches up. It makes it easier to administer. We had a little section on our military or federal disaster service leave that was cut out from a previous edit, and we're just seeking to add that back. You can see the language where it came out and where we'd like to add that back on in. And that has actually been timely. We've had employees requesting time under several different scenarios to help, and some are being sent by their departments. We're deploying employees to Western North Carolina to aid. Particularly EMS, Sheriff's Office, and DSS is getting that request. But we're also seeing people who want to volunteer on their own, not necessarily a family situation, and we talked about that as possibly a personal leave scenario. But if they just want to go and help their church pass out water or be involved, that would be a way they would do that, but at their own time. So we just want to make sure that's cleaned up and good for those who are out for military and other leave purposes. And then finally, when we did the paid parental leave, we pulled temporarily the maternity leave section that was our old ordinance language, just to allow it to catch up, and we're wanting to re-implement that now. So it's just cleaning up some things that are no longer applicable and then pointing them to the new paid parental leave section as where those benefits would come up. So those are just the additional cleanup items. And then, as mentioned, since you are leaning favorably toward the personal day, we'll come back with language for that would, again, keep it as a very limited type of benefit, no rollover, no cash out, use it or lose it, and with kind of a few examples of how it may be applicable. So, okay.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Ashley or Lundy?
Thank you.
We appreciate your
All
time.
right, thank you. Okay, we move now to item 4.4, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Happy to have Heather Mobley with us to talk about bylaw amendments.
So we have two changes proposed to our bylaws. One is we had not updated for remote attendance, and we've worked pretty hard to make that come into compliance with what your remote is. And the second thing we added with the funding procedures, it was a little unclear about who needed to attend the mandatory informational session, so we've tightened that up to a named applicant in the program proposal must participate. So those are the two changes that we have that we'd ask for you to approve.
Okay. Any questions on that item? All right, well, I think you have the next one as well.
I do. One of our programs had previously been funded under their shift mentoring. This is Transforming Youth Movement. They are no longer receiving funding from JCPC on that program, but we do fund them for another program, which is the Community Service and Vocational Program. They are asking to shift 2 laptops and a vehicle to use in community service and vocational programs that were originally funded for a different program. And the JCPC has approved that, so we would just ask you to approve that as well.
Okay, any questions on that item? So same agency, different program?
Yes.
Yeah.
Transforming Youth has been funded for a couple different programs with us for a number of years. They decided not to request funding for the mentoring program, but we still use them for community service and restitution, which is a very crucial part of the JCPC funding, because if you're unaware, when someone does damage during a delinquency case, or even sometimes teen court orders that, obviously we don't expect parents to pay for what their children have damaged. So this enables the children to earn money towards that restitution without burdening the family further. So it's a very important program, and they help transport kids to do that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we move now to item 4.6, appointments to boards and committees. You all have a copy of those in your agenda, which JCPC, Library Trustees, Youth Commission. Does anybody have any questions or discussion on any of those appointments? Okay. Hearing none, we move now to item 5, which is approval of the regular meeting agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. Does anybody see any adjustments that need to be made to that agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda as presented. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And I think this is probably a record-breaking short work session, but we do have need of a closed session. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session as authorized by North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A, and 6 for discussion of personnel matters. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. We are now in closed session. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Mayor.